Hey, good morning, good afternoon. This is Chris Psencik with McFarland Stanford. Excited for you to join us for part two, where we're going back into the conversation with Mark Pyrah. We had a great discussion. For those of you who did not get to check out part one, I encourage you, take the time, go check it out, go look at it. Lots of great information there where we covered reframing irrigation as water management and turning that into something profitable in your company. We talked about systems win and workflow, and how do we create workflow to SOPs, to tools, and then automate it. We talked about the speed and the simplicity that drives performance through key performance indicators and pre-approvals. And so I'm very excited to continue the discussion with Mark as part of our part two discussion, where we're going to continue to go a little bit deeper into what metrics and metric management looks like as we manage profitable irrigation operations for our maintenance divisions and our irrigation divisions in your companies.
Welcome to the Roots of Success, the premier landscapers podcast that brings you the latest tips and strategies for successful landscape business. I'm Jim Callai, one of the principals and coaches of McFarland Stanford. Jason New and I started McFarland Stanford to coach landscape businesses after years in the industry ourselves. Now, more than 10 years since we began, McFarland has a deep bench of coaches and subject matter experts who work with our clients on very specific issues of business. Whether you're struggling with people, profits, or just day-to-day challenges, our coaches and guests have the real-world experience and practical advice to help you build a thriving and profitable landscape business.
All right, when we were together, you talked about connectivity with regards to irrigation and your remote access controllers. And you had given the percentage of 90%, that you shoot for 90% on your connectivity with the goal of getting to 100%. Why is that so important for you?
I could give you an example of one site why that's important for us. One site that sold all of our technicians, and it's a larger property. It's a retail property, and it's a huge development, and it has 17 controllers on the property. Some are pedestals, some are inside restaurants, some are inside buildings and mechanical rooms that are accessed through 2 doors or 3 doors. Like I mentioned on the restaurant side, some you have to wait for the manager to go back and open the door that's in the kitchen. So this was a site, 17 different controllers, and it would take typically somewhere between 4 and 5 hours just to make a clock adjustment, to drive to the site and make a clock adjustment. Now, doing an inspection, there's no accessing of any of those controllers. It's all exterior. There's no bothering managers at restaurants or anything of that nature. Now we do, if we want to make an adjustment to all the controllers, we do it from our office. We don't even have to go on the property. And this, by the way, this property is 45 minutes away. So we're saving time, we're saving all those things just to make these 4 or 5 adjustments that you would in a year. So that is why it provides speed, efficiency, and effectiveness to our team. And so once we realize that, it's okay, we need to get this on every property as much as possible so that we don't have these types of issues where I've got to run out an hour away just to add a day to the programming.
Yep. Talk about work-life balance. If I'm getting people out of the truck, I can have more of those people on site working on other things and selling enhancement and doing other things if they're not having to go do simple stuff like just turn off controllers for a freeze.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that's critical to understand is that most of your team is doing A work, right? Not B work, not some are giving me C work or B plus work, but they're spending 40 or 50 hours. So do you want the 40, 50 hours to generate A work? Or do you want them to get frustrated because they don't have the technology and so they're providing a C product, but they're working 50 hours and they're getting frustrated because they're not providing the work. And then you get frustrated and then, we need to find a new technician. Sometimes it's just about technology. It's just about giving them access to tools that make their life better, that make them more efficient, and they become happy at that point. They love it.
Yep. All right. So 95%, that was another one that you gave that really stuck out to me, that I kept that note. When you talked about 95% is a non-negotiable when it comes to inspections. Why is 95% a non-negotiable when it comes to your irrigation audits and inspections with your clients?
I think simply because it's your revenue engine. Inspections are not, we used to do only turn on the system. Maybe we get 1 inspection a year and then turn off the system. And that was, to be honest, that was one of the harder things for our team to accept, is that we're going to be doing 4, 5, 6 inspections on a system throughout the summertime, and to build our workflows and to build our team to be able to do that. Because every time I don't know about you, but there's not very many times that I would go to an irrigation system and find nothing to repair. There's always something there, small or large. And so if you want to increase revenue, then you need to increase your inspections. It was simple, right? Simple formula.
All right. And there was another formula you gave that I thought tied very nicely to that 95%. And you talked a little bit about irrigation revenue per tech. And you gave some great examples of what that looks like when you had a 50% inspection rate, and then when you were able to get that to a 95% inspection rate, and what that did to your irrigation revenue per month per tech. I'd love if you'd share a little bit about what that evolution looked like.
Sure. Yeah, because if you're only inspecting, if you have, let's say that you're requiring yourself to only do 1 inspection in a summertime or 2 inspections in the summertime, you're matching your staff to that level. And what ends up happening typically is a main line breaks, or there's an emergency on property, so that inspection doesn't happen, and you're going to deal with other stuff that needs to be done, and you don't have a regular cadence of inspections. And so your revenue per technician is really low. But by increasing the number of inspections and hiring and putting a team in place to achieve those inspections, naturally our revenue just increased. We had double-digit revenue growth without necessarily, once that team was in place, 4 or 5 technicians or however many might be, that revenue increased just naturally. And we had experienced double-digit growth without increasing the number of technicians that we had on staff.
Yeah. And to put that into numbers for everybody, when Mark and I were together, he shared that I think when you were sitting at 45, 50%, you shared that it was roughly 10 to 12 that they were $10 to $12,000 they were doing per month.
Right.
And then when you were able to get that up to 95 or even 100% on your audits and inspections, that number jumped all the way to around 19 to 20K per month.
And so, even higher depending on the month and depending on the technician.
Yeah. And so I will tell you, like I said, I'm a science guy. I have a horticulture degree. I'm not a math person, but that is a number that really sticks out to me when I'm looking at how am I managing. I look at this at turf and fert. I look at this with pest control operators. I look at this with irrigation audits and inspections. One person producing 19 to 20K per month with 1 truck, 1 irrigation audit inspection crew, that is a tremendous amount of volume when you start to equate that out to a maintenance portfolio.
And you compare that to other divisions as well. Compare that to tree work for us, to compare that to maintenance. Maintenance is probably the lowest, right? Revenue per employee. I know that's something that a lot of companies track as revenue per employee, but irrigation and is right there competing with tree work as far as the amount of revenue that you can achieve with 1 employee. And so the question being, if that's the case, why not increase that? Why not? It all comes back to really one thing. Your inspections and the number of inspections that you complete affects revenue per tech. It affects revenue growth. It affects your everything else as part of that process. It's just one metric that really can affect so many other things.
Yeah. So God, if I took away one thing, your key performance indicators that you're laying out for your team, how that relates to the dollars they're producing per tech, per truck, that is a game changer for any organization. So I hope everybody heard that. All right. So earlier you talked a little bit about the automation, and I'd love to go into that a little bit more and how automation fits into your standard operating procedures and how automating has made your tech able to do the things they're doing. So if you were to talk to any of our audience, what are the first automations that you would start to really tell people to explore? Things like, if I was going to start, here's the first 1, 2, 3 I would focus on from an automation standpoint.
Yeah. I think first you want to look at whether it's Aspire or Boss or LMN, whatever you're using from that perspective that's running most of your business operations, is look at the APIs, look at the connections, integrations that it has with other technologies, and utilize those as much as you can where it makes sense, where it's be purpose driven in that. making sure that connection works. So for instance, on our side with Aspire, we make sure that we have a connection with SmartLink, and making sure that those automations are working properly. We have an automation that we just revised our SOP within the last month for water management to integrate a new automation from SmartLink. And so it makes our process easier, faster, better on that side. So I would say using your software integrations is step number one. And then looking at each of those inside, for us in the Google Workspace, there's so many automations on that side that we could utilize that we do. For instance, our asset managers, when they're the ones that prepare the proposals to go to the customers, our water managers get everything done on the SmartLink side, and then they push it over to Aspire. But when they push it and finish that inspection, it sends a notification by email to the asset manager, and then that automatically sets it in, labels it, and sets it in there for him to review later. So there's little automations like that. So he doesn't have to go to SmartLink to go get the information. It's already in an inbox, and it automatically puts it in Google Drive for us so that he can go grab it from there. So there's just little bits and pieces of automation like that are helpful.
Yeah. And then I know working with your software, you have dashboards. Your managers, when they come in each day, they've got dashboards they can check. They got dashboards that they're looking at. How do these dashboards and what they're seeing on a day-to-day basis, how does that impact their management abilities and their ability and their behavior to go out there and execute?
It impacts them tremendously if they're set up properly. So when we first got Aspire, and it doesn't matter, whatever dashboards you have, the thing with Aspire is you can set up a dashboard 100 different ways. My dashboard is unique probably than others in the sense that I have way too many dials on my dashboard. I have probably over 100 dials on my dashboard, and that's not a healthy thing. They make fun of me all the time because I have way too many dials.
You're extreme though.
I never met a dial I didn't like. Let's just put it that way. Never met a KPI that I didn't like. So I have to be careful. And one thing that we implemented, I want to say 3 years ago or 2 years ago, is by position, we made each position their dashboard the same. So a water manager, if that's his position, and we've got a couple of those, when he logs into Aspire, his dashboard looks the same as every other water manager. Same with our asset managers. And then we can then control what they see when they see it. So if there's a metric, a KPI, a lead measure that we want them to use, I'm going to make sure that's prominent up to the left in a dial for them so they see it every day when they come in.
Yep.
They can create their own dials, that's fine, but a lot of times I just want the positioning of our dashboard is intentional, and we do that so that they are focusing on the right things all the time.
Yeah,
I could come in and just talk about the minutia forever, but they don't care. They want to see what is it that I'm being measured by, and what is it that it will bring me the most success, and that's what I should see first when I log into my dashboard.
Yeah. All right. So all of us that are on this call today that have irrigation techs or have irrigation managers, typically and I'm included, I don't like to sit behind a computer and just generate estimates all day. And I don't like to just generate proposals, and I don't love to sit around and do emails with the bulk of my day. How are you going about reducing admin time for your irrigation techs and your irrigation managers? So they're doing their audits, they're doing their inspections. You created these systems and these processes, and now we've got to get this stuff to the customer so they can get approvals. You've got the pre-approvals to help with that, but we still have to generate our work orders and our tickets. What are you doing within your organization to help reduce that administration time?
Yeah, so there is an API or an integration from SmartLink that helps reduce the amount of time that our asset managers use to build that. So when it comes over from SmartLink, the proposal is already built, like the estimate's already done, and they just have to review it, make sure it's good. So that saves admin time. The other thing that we have to build it in Aspire because that's how we invoice. And one of the challenges we had last year is that we would say, see attached report, and we would attach the inspection report to the invoice. But more often than not, that invoice doesn't go directly to the person who's paying the bill. And so when they get it, they're like, I don't see, or they don't forward it. When they forward it for approval to the property manager or to the customer, they don't get the report. And so it was causing a bunch of stuff on our side to get kicked back to us. And so what our asset managers do is they're using AI to take an inspection report. They just upload it to the AI and it summarizes. I've trained it to summarize that into bullet points. They copy and paste that into the proposal and done. So their whole process of looking at and building an opportunity to get from creation to a ticket for the technicians is about 2 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now you can see why he's able to produce 19 to 20K per tech in a given month. Like,
it's just quick. And even on the technician side, the technicians, we've made sure that they are just focused on repairs. They're focused on inspections and they're focused on repairs. Once they do their piece, they're done. It doesn't come back. I don't like it to flow backwards. Everything is flowing forward. So if there's something in our process that forces it to go from the water manager to the asset manager back to the water manager, that's something I need to fix. So that's where automation has certainly helped. And these integrations have helped, is to push that along. So then once it leaves the asset manager's hands, then it's back into repair mode if it wasn't already repaired. And then it goes to our admin team and it doesn't go backwards at that point.
Yeah. And it's funny, I had the quote written down here from you back when we were together. Said, in quotes, scale capability, not headcount. And that is exactly what you just described. And so how have you seen that reflected in your business?
Capability is interesting because, like I said before, you have a lot of A players and they want to produce A plus work. If you give them the tools to do that and the automations to do that and the AI side of it, like increasing their ability to make decisions, because that's what they're there really for, is to make decisions. If you give them the tools to make decisions faster, you don't have to increase the number of people that you're hiring. You're just increasing their ability to make them more effective. Yeah. So that's what that means. Scaling capability. Don't increase complexity. Where scaling where growth becomes an issue is when you become more complex as you grow. And with automation, technology, and AI, you're able to reduce the complexity and provide tools that make them the best person that they can be and for their whatever skill set that they have.
Yeah. And I hope everybody's hearing, throwing bodies at a problem never solves it. That it's just, you're adding hours, you're adding labor, you're not doing anything to actually make things better. Automation, creating systems and complexities and removing the complexities is ultimately how we can increase that profitability.
And the crazy part now is and this has really just happened within the last 4 to 6 months, is now you have AI tools that if you don't like a particular software piece that's not working right, or you don't have a tool that is custom built for you to work a certain way, AI will build it for you.
Yep.
I just finished building a tool that took me on the whole time I've probably worked on it, maybe 2 hours that I've worked on this tool, and spent about $100, $150 on this tool. And whereas that would have taken months of development and probably thousands of dollars to develop this. Now I can do it. AI does everything for me. And it's a tool now that's going to make our team that much more effective, and revenue on the revenue side, that much more profitable.
Yeah. So ultimately, we're a customer service business. We're providing something to the customer. We've talked a lot about the operation side. I'd love to shift a little bit. Let's talk about the customer experience. How has these automatizations, these standard operating procedures, these KPIs, how has that changed the client experience for customers of your organization?
They love it. They love the simplicity of it. We used to get a lot of questions about because we were on paper.
Yep.
So if you can just imagine a technician is going out, he's doing an inspection, he writes down on paper. At the end of the day, he brings that paper back. So the irrigation manager then, he takes a couple days because he's burnt out, and then he gets it in the system finally, and then it's out to the customer. But there's no pictures. Maybe the pictures, I got to get them off the guy's phone. There's just a lot of complexity there. But now, once we've implemented the Weathermatic piece and the SmartLink piece and the inspections, the digital side of it, we have almost zero questions about those repairs because the pictures are there, the repairs are there. It's very clear, it's marked clearly. We don't really have to worry about questions from our customers. And then even on the proposal side, the proposals are generating, we hear all the time about how clean they are and thank you for the summary. These are some of the best we've seen. That's the impact that we're seeing on the customer side.
Yeah. And then I'm curious, do you guys measure retention? Have you noticed any changes with the retention of customers as you've started to implement all this technology and the audits and the inspections, and as that has improved over the years?
We track retention generally. I would say we probably don't pinpoint it down to a specific piece of technology, but it's interesting because the hardest things to measure are typically the things that have the greatest impact on your business. We measure things because they're easy to measure, and there's 95% of what we measure has an impact, but there's that extra 5% that we can't measure that has a huge impact. And that is, my team knows that I'm pretty a perfectionist when it comes to proposals and how they look and how it comes across to the customer and the customer experience. Going the extra mile there is really pays dividends down the road as far as retention. I can't put my thumb on it. I can't measure that particular piece other than general retention, but I know it has a huge impact.
Yeah. I'd love let's just jump into a couple numbers. You're a numbers guy, you're a dials guy. So I would love to just get your first thoughts on this. We talked a little about the revenue per tech per month that you guys shoot for. Do you guys have a general gross margin average this is what we'd like to see? We may not hit this on all, we may blow it past it on some, but where is the happy spot you like to see your gross margin in this division?
Yeah, as far as irrigation goes, I would say our target is north of 55, but we're more generally closer to 60%, between 60 and 65% gross margin when it comes to that. And that's the same on our tree side and our other divisions that are not maintenance. But yeah, that's about where we aim for.
That's perfect. That's what we like to see as well. And then from the inspection side, when you're turning your irrigation techs loose, do we have, like, you talked a lot about how much percentage wise they're doing, but what do you target from an inspection? Do we have a number that we'd like to see this many per day? We'd like to see this many per week, this many per month. What does that inspection volume look like for a tech?
Right. We measure, I wouldn't say we measure it traditionally, but in our SOP, their goal is to do an inspection at no more than 3 minutes per zone. So if they're more than 3 minutes per zone, they're doing too much. And then from there, that makes sure that just the inspection is the inspection. And then the repair is the repair. Oftentimes, because of our pre-approval limits, they will go through the inspection very quickly, and then they turn right around without leaving the site and just do the repairs right after that. So,
yep. All right. You got me on that one too, because I thought you were going to come with a number of X amount per day or X amount per week or per month. And what you just gave right there was 1,000 times better than what I would coach anybody to. 3 minutes per zone. It doesn't matter how many you do, but 3 minutes per zone, you can quantify that into an actual manageable number for every single person in your organization. That is an incredible number right there. So I hope everybody heard that. And then close rates. What have you seen close rate wise? Your capture percentage for every proposal that goes out. What do you guys see as a good capture and close rate for these proposals?
Oh, that's interesting. We don't measure close rate on irrigation proposals because if I did, I would estimate it's probably going to be north of 90%.
Okay.
Mainly because it's just because of the technology and because we're presenting something that is, here's the repairs, right? Here's what we found. There's not a question as to the validity of the repair. It's more, I'm going to do it myself, which that's probably not a customer of ours for very much longer after that.
Yep.
Because we want to provide expertise and professional work. And so if you're not letting us do that, then maybe we're not the right fit for you. And so I would say, yeah, there's not too many proposals that we send out that are not getting approved. The necessity of it is we don't even have to question that. It's just, this is what we found, right?
Yep.
Look, here's the items, here's the pictures. Do you want to move forward or not? And if they don't, it's mainly because of money that they don't have. But I would say it's north of 90% for sure.
Okay. I love that, man. I couldn't ask for better than that. All right. So we've got a variety of listeners here. Some are going to be 500,000 to $1 million operators. I bet we have some on here that are north of 100 million. If I am looking at everything I just heard today, I'm wanting to take action. Where should I start on Monday? What would be the number one thing that you would say, you as a owner, as a manager, as an operator, as an irrigation tech, here's what I would tell you to focus on first?
Yeah. Step number one for me if you're trying to relook at things, is get feedback. Get feedback from your team. Where's the friction? Where is it that they get stopped? Where is it that is lagging behind? So once you get that feedback from that, look at your workflow and make sure your workflow is where it should be. And it's what you want it to be. It's purpose driven. And then next, look at automations. Look at your SOPs, see how you can automate those. That's the steps that I would take, is feedback, then workflow, then SOPs, then automation, then AI. Where you can get in trouble is, and I've done it, trust me, because I'm a deep diver in certain aspects, and AI is one of them. There are so many tools, just like when apps started to come out for smartphones. There are so many AI tools out there that you can get lost really quickly. And research to tools, but just choose one or two that's going to have the biggest impact and stick with it. If you can get lost talking to ChatGPT because they want to engage with you, they want to talk forever, but use the tool that works the best, that achieves the purpose that you're trying to achieve.
Yep. That's incredible advice. All right. You're on the cutting edge of all of this. I will tell you, I work with a lot of professionals all across the country. And what I can tell you is you are truly on the cutting edge. And a couple just random questions. Where do you see irrigation going in the green industry over the next 3 to 5 years? With everything you've learned, everything you've experienced, and how fast it's changing, where do you envision that going over the next 3 to 5 years?
I think you're going to see technicians become even more valuable, to the point where they become water managers themselves, where the admin side of things, when you start talking about agentic AI and AI agents, they're going to clean up all of the administrative side of that, so that you may not have water managers moving forward. Maybe you just have technicians that are in the field. Nothing against water managers. We love our water managers, but you asked me where it's going, and where it's going is guys moving from site to site. And once they finish an inspection, it's off to the customer straight from there. It's automated. The whole process is automated all the way through invoice. There's no human involvement in any of that process other than the person that has to be in the field doing the inspection. I don't see, maybe I should ask Tesla about this, but I don't see their humanoid robots yet they will eventually, but yeah, it's that technician becomes the most important piece of your organization as far as water management goes.
Yep. And I go back to your number of, you were closing 90% off of your irrigation inspections and audits, and you're producing 55 to 65% gross margin. So when you say that, what I hear is we're reducing labor burden, we're reducing overhead, we're increasing profitability, and we're increasing the value of the team members you have within your organization to make a really awesome standard of living and really do some incredible stuff independently with this technology. So that's exciting. I will tell you, in the green industry, I've never been more excited about how technology is changing the game and making us all better at what we do, and making life and work better for how we deliver to our customers. And so
certainly makes my life better. I'm still working the same number of hours that I typically work, but I am 10 times more effective than I was even 6 months ago, a year ago, certainly 5 years ago, because of the automations, because of AI, what it's doing for us.
And what would you say the top 1% of companies, the best of the best, what are they going to be doing differently that's going to separate them from everybody else?
Exploring new options, new ways of doing things. Like I said, you can get lost really quickly with AI, but you need to be testing in that space. You need to be working with it. A year ago, I was talking to ChatGPT. That was my interaction with AI. But now, just yesterday, within the first 3 hours, I've already used AI in 10 different ways to do 10 different things that make my life better and the life of our team better, just with that process. So you need to jump in, you need to start playing with it. You need to do more than that and just explore options and tools and things that are going to make your business better. If you're not, then you're going to fall behind pretty quick.
Yep. I think the number one red flag I see now when I step into an organization, I start asking questions. If their answer is, this is how we've always done it, immediately the alarm bells go off that we've got some work to do. And so you're seeing that.
There's not a year that goes by. Like I just said, a month ago, we revised our SOPs in our workflow for irrigation. We did that a year ago. So every year that's where I think people get stuck, is once they write an SOP, it's done. Yep. SOP is a living document and it has to be updated. It has to be changed based on feedback, based on technology. And if you're not willing to make change, then typically you're going to break at some point.
Yeah. And as we wrap up our time together, Mark, first, I just want to say thank you so much for everything you've done.
Yeah, happy to do
what you're doing to change our organization and what we're doing in the green industry. But Mark, you talked about key performance indicators. You talked about some very tactical things that we can be doing and measuring as an organization. You went through some awesome, incredible standard operating procedures of how you're taking workflow, you're systemizing the workflow, you're creating the automatizations, and now putting it into executable steps for your team members, and what that's done for improving your profitability, improving your retention, improving your capture rate. Mark, I am so glad I got to meet you, one, and get to be a part of your conversation. And then two, I learned so much from you, and I feel like there's so much still to learn, and I feel like you and I could talk for hours.
I do like good barbecue. So
hey, we are not far away. I will be in Eugene, Oregon, not too far from now. So I will be up your way here shortly. So
I can't say we have great barbecue here. It's hard to find.
I can claim it here in Texas, and I can claim Tex-Mex. So you need it, we got it.
We'll do whatever. Awesome. We'll hit up a couple spots.
So, well, Mark, thank you again for joining us today for our Route to Success podcast. And thank you again for everything you're doing for not only the state of Oregon, but for the green industry at large across the country, and all of our listeners here today, and being a part of this. And special shout out to you. Thank you. Where can we see you next? Where are you traveling? What's coming down the pipe for you?
We're pretty focused on springtime, so we're super busy right now, but I will be probably traveling to Aspire Ignite, and I'll be at Elevate as well. And depending on if people want me to travel to Texas to get barbecue, I'm always open for that. But yeah, I'll be around here and there.
That sounds great. Mark, thank you again. I appreciate your time today. And thank you all of you for joining us today on another episode of Route to Success. We look forward to having you join us on the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Roots of Success, brought to you by the subject matter experts at McFarland Stanford. Have a question you want our coaches to tackle in a future episode? You could submit that at mcfarlandstanford.com/podcast. And to find more helpful content from McFarland Stanford, follow us on X, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. If this or any of our episodes have piqued your interest in ACE peer groups, we encourage you to join us at ACE Discovery. Just check out the events tab at mcfarlandstanford.com. This is Jason New, co-founder and principal at McFarland Stanford. We'll see you next time.